Hey there, my friend. It's Tricia Carr. Real quick before we head into this episode, I just want to make sure that you know about Modern Mystic Life, a subscription service for spiritual mentoring and education. The monthly subscription is only $11.11 per month. We have regular support and inspiration delivered with the utmost ease right into your text messenger 2 to 4 times per week. You can use your mobile device or your desktop messenger to access the lessons and meditations, a monthly MP3 download of a produced meditation, at least once per month live meditation led by me. There is no account login, and we have a monthly live class workshop. These are usually $35 for non-subscribers, so it is quite a deal. And the community is amazing. This is a way for you to support the Charmed Life podcast and also a way for us to be able to work more closely together. So do check out how you can subscribe in the show notes. I hope to see you there. Hello and welcome to the Charmed Life podcast. This podcast is all about magic, metaphysics, mysticism, and the unconditional love of the universe, and I am your host. My name is Tricia Carr. This is a beautiful episode. I had a wonderful time having this conscious conversation with my guest. Her name is Dr. Andrea Shakarian, and we talk about ascended masters, archangels, the healing arts in so many ways. We are both hypnotherapists, and she is also a chiropractor. Before we head into the conversation, I wanted to share with you a little story about how I discovered that my archangel, the archangel who is the architect of my oversoul and the head of my spiritual existence, well, the just everything, essentially, I am a part of this archangel. And by the way, as I speak this is how we are all made. We all have an archangel that oversees our oversoul, is the architect of our oversoul, in fact, and who is the closest composite, or we are the closest composite of that archangel. And so I want to share with you how I actually, I guess, remembered, really, recognized or recognized. I like to think of it that way, to remind myself that recognizing is actually changing my mind, changing my cognition. That Archangel Ariel is my angel. And before I share that, I do want to say also that I think that the archangels, they are archetypal energies that are so much greater than the names and the descriptions and the ways that we interact with them, that we give them or that we experience from them. They're much more than that, just like you are much more than your name or your job or the other certain roles that you have in your life. You are infinite and an eternity of experiencing and of energy flowing. And so as I speak of the archangels, and perhaps in some other culture, some other side of the world, they are not calling this energy that I interact with Archangel Ariel. And yet that is just a label, that is just a doorway for me to experience this energy. So I just wanted to mention that, lest we be sort of confined to illusions of thought, religions, or that the experience that you're having is the only one, or the experience that I having am. And yet at the same time, it's real. You know, the real connection to Archangel Michael, that's real. So let me share with you, before we head into the conversation with Dr. Andrea Shakarian, it's really interesting because I had just started to awaken. I'd had my spiritual awakening, mystical and metaphysical, opening to my intuitive and psychic gifts. And I was reading voraciously all of the things that I could. And at this time, Doreen Virtue was still very much a part of that, as an author, very much a part of that process for a lot of people. Her books and her cards were on the market and available and seemed to be a doorway for many spiritual seekers. and I was one of them. And so I was reading a book. I've never actually, when I've told this story before, I've never admitted that the book was Doreen Virtue. And the reason is because there's one part of it that sounds like it may be pejorative about Doreen's advice, but you know what? It's simply in the book. So I'm just going to I'm going to go forward finally revealing the fact that the book that I was reading that triggered this experience, was a catalyst for this experience, was actually by Doreen Virtue. The book was on angels, and there was a portion of the book where she's talking about archangels, and there's a portion of the book where she's talking about guardian angels, and she suggests that you can find out your guardian angel's name, and all you need to do is, just ask. And at this time I had gotten to the place where I could clear my mind. I was meditating. And so it was very easy for me to just put the book down. And that was her advice, just ask the name of your guardian angel. And I put the book down and I took a breath. I cleared my mind and I put that question forward. What's the name of my guardian angel? And I heard the name Ariel. Now, at this time, I was sort of fresh to exploring this kind of concept of angels, even because even in my Christian background, angels weren't really a part of the Christian religion when I was a kid. Not the Christian religion I was in. At any way, I didn't, even if I had heard of angels by name from Christianity or in the Bible, Ariel wasn't one of them. That was, there's Michael and there was Gabriel, and that was about it. Those were the ones that I knew. So when I heard the name Ariel very clearly, and by the way, I was journaling at the same time. I was listening and peering into spirit and the messages I was getting, and I would write it down. And so I heard the name Ariel, and I instantly thought, you mean like the Little Mermaid? That doesn't sound right, because that was my association with the name Ariel. Now, of course, it seems hilarious to me because I know that the El as a suffix in Hebrew means of light, and a lot of angels are named thusly in the Western, kind of paradigm. And so I just thought, well, that seems strange. And then I continued to read the book a little bit, and I got to the part where Doreen was writing about archangels and to the part about Archangel Ariel, which kind of blew my socks off right away. And it said that, Archangel Ariel oversees animals and natures and animal communication, which I had already started to practice animal communication. And so and then it's along the lines there in those chapters about archangels too. Doreen said that archangels are not your guardian angels. They are not. And it was very blunt. And so I thought, well, I must have gotten that wrong then. I already thought that Ariel was a funny name because it's the Little Mermaid. Well, Doreen's telling me she's an archangel and telling me that she can't be my guardian angel, so I must have messed that up somehow. And, when I Googled Archangel Ariel too, I'm like really doing all of the investigative work the way that I know how. And the Little Mermaid comes up first. And then I find, if I move past the Little Mermaid, I found other, descriptions of Ariel, much like Doreen's, oversees animals and nature. And it's like weirdly confusing for me because it was so validating, and I can't make up the fact that I heard Ariel in response to who my guardian angel is, and I didn't know there was an Archangel Ariel. You know what I mean? And then I have this other outside authority, Doreen, saying that's not possible. So I went back in and I listened again, and I said, I must have been wrong. Please tell me who my guardian angel is. And I got a similar name, and it was Aliel, Aliel. And so I journaled that, and then I went to Google about that, and I found this codex is the best way I could describe it. That was like very small font on microfiche, but photocopied into a digital file, PDF. And I found the name Aliel. So it was a codex of all kinds of spirits, angels, and different kinds of spirits. And down in this, there was the listing of the angel Aliel. And then across it had like the categories that they fell into. And angel Aliel fell into the category of being an Ariel spirit. Now it was spelled A-E-R-I, like air, Ariel spirit. But I'm like, once again, mind blown. You can't make this up. So I tell that story to help you to feel an invitation to work with the archangels or your ascended masters. And with that, now let's get into Dr. Andrea Shakarian. Dr. Andrea Shakarian says, I have been on a spiritual journey since I was a child. Growing up in a Christian home, I asked Jesus to be my ascended master at the age of 7. I studied the Bible in church and in school and became very adept at quoting scripture. As I got older, I found myself intrigued by spirituality and metaphysical studies. I knew that I wanted to become a healer. In my 20s, while meditating on scripture, I was shown the words, "You will lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover." This led me to pursue a degree in chiropractic. In addition to being a doctor of chiropractic, I'm also a certified hypnotherapist, licensed by the American Board of Hypnotherapy, and I also hold a certification in angel mediumship and advanced angel readings by Charles Virtue. I have studied under several mentors who have shown me techniques and modalities that assist the energy fields of the body in releasing blocks that prevent both physical and emotional healing. My knowledge of the physical body and my experience over the years in working with the energetic body have given me the tools and confidence to help many on their own path to love and light. She tells a story in this conversation about an interaction she had with Jesus. I also tell this on the video version of this, which if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, you'll be able to catch that at some time. And so without any further delay, I'm very excited to welcome you into the loving light and this conversation with Dr. Andrea Shakarian, and I'll chat with you on the other side. Well, Dr. Andrea, I am so excited. You have such a beautiful story that I have read on your website and in your bio and everything, and the work that you're doing is very, very exciting. So I want to just let everyone, I don't know, your journey is beautiful. The work you're doing is beautiful. Can you let everyone know about all of that beauty that you are engaged in?
Sure. Thank you for having me, first of all. I started out as a young child I had an inner knowing that I was meant to be in the healing arts. I used to always say, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a doctor. That's when anyone would ask me. As I used to think it was going to be in the form of a pediatrician, when you're younger, and I always loved being around children. And then as I got older, and I actually went and got my degree in biology, and then it became more of a focus on optometry and ophthalmology, and I was thinking about going that route. And I, in fact, did an internship with a doctor in my hometown my senior year in college. Well, that has a separate entrance exam that you take to get into that school. And I was supposed to take it in May of my senior year. In the morning, I was scheduled to take it. My alarm clock didn't go off. And I was like, you know what? I was devastated because, and it was far away it wasn't like it was just down the street. It was like a good hour drive to get there. And so I totally missed it. And I wasn't going to be able to take it again until the fall. So I graduated. I went home. When I got home, my cousin was living at home, living with my parents and attending chiropractic college in our hometown in Marietta, Georgia, Life University. And he's a few years older than me, and we were always like brother and sister, very close. And he said to me, I need some guinea pigs to work on in student clinic. He said, let's have you come in for a patient for me. So I did. And anyway, I fell in love with the philosophy of chiropractic, and I fell in love with just the holistic approach that it had. The founders of chiropractic were very spiritual, Dee Dee and BJ Palmer. Their philosophy was that the body has an innate healing capacity. And as long as you remove the interference within the spine, then the body is free to heal itself. And so I really found that just to resonate with me. And I, thought it was very beautiful, because my intention into going into the healing arts was to do it from a more holistic alternative standpoint. So anyway, to make a long story short, I enrolled in chiropractic school, and I always kind of say I felt like chiropractic chose me, because I had no idea about what it was or how it worked until, I became a patient of my cousin. And then I graduated. I loved it from the first day. The first day I was in class, I was like, this is it. I knew I had made the right decision. When I graduated, I started working for a doctor outside of Atlanta. She taught me how to do muscle testing, which has since become a very important tool in the way that I read the body. And
Hmm.
she taught me a lot about nutrition as well. And so as my practice grew and went on over the years, I found that my patients who were coming in with structural complaints and pains and aches, that's what most people go to the chiropractor for. After a while, some of them were getting better and, getting better and leaving the practice. And then some would just keep coming and their pain just wasn't really going anywhere. And I began to make a correlation to these patients who were talked to me about their emotional problems that they were experiencing were the ones who weren't getting any better with just the structural adjustments. And I said, okay, there's got to be a way to address the underlying emotional component here that their body is manifesting as physical pain. So I already had spiritual knowledge, and that goes back again to my childhood of growing up in the Christian faith, but also being very interested in metaphysical arts. And I was always open to learning things. So I was a spiritual person. And I had some events in my life that were experiences in the spirit world. Anyway, so I developed my own way of muscle testing through the chakra system to find where the emotions were being held in the body and to help that patient then release those emotions. So it's sort of like going through their timeline, because most of the time it has to do with past issues. And when we pinpoint certain ages and we talk about what went on then, and then you can see a pattern emerge from their timeline that's coming up to be released from the body. And then I decided also that I wanted to find a way to access limited beliefs in the mind that people were carrying around that were keeping them from healing and moving further in their journey of their health. And so I became certified in hypnotherapy. So those are my core modalities that I use to help people from a mind, body, spirit approach in my practice.
Wow. So I'm a hypnotherapist too, by the way. I don't know if you know
Okay.
that.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And I'm curious about let's say the repressed emotions, the ones that are bubbling up. First of all,
Mm-hmm.
this has been on my heart the last week, and it must partly because of us coming
Mm-hmm.
together to meet. And because I realized while talking to someone, there was something that I'm mulling over, something I'm thinking about, something I'm uncomfortable with. And when I was talking to my friend, I was like, I just need to go sit down and like investigate that feeling. And she's like, of course, you have to feel your feelings. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but like they reveal themselves like when they're
Mm-hmm.
repressed, when they're hidden, when they're in the shadow, they are literally hidden from you. I mean, that's
Right.
the whole mechanism, is to try and
Mm-hmm.
hide those painful parts of us, those
Mm-hmm.
painful experiences. So as they're bubbling up, and so you're doing a component of talk or counseling, I assume,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then investigating them that way. And then there are certain adjustments that will help then the body release them. Am I understanding that
I do.
correctly?
I have a specific way of releasing the emotions using an energetic technique that I develop that has to do with crystals and chakras and
Oh, okay.
utilizing diagrams
Hmm.
in the form of sacred geometry, triangles, and oils. It's all woo woo, but no, but
Well,
it works very
that's
well
what we are
because
here, so you can
exactly.
go for it.
Yeah. I have a whole ritual that I came up with
Okay.
because the body loves rituals. The
Mhm.
nervous system is really what I focus on, and I heighten the nervous system with breath and with tapping down the spine. So I do this whole energetic release with them. Having them say things out loud is the most important part of the release, and I walk them through that process. And then after I do that energetic release, then I lie them down and I see if there's any structural
Mm.
areas that need to be adjusted. If we need to do a structural adjustment in a certain area, like if it's something that comes up in their solar plexus, then when I lay them down, I really check out that area from, say, T12 down to L5 to see if there's anything there that needs to be moved. And a lot of times there will be. It'll come up. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, so you're releasing it on the energetic level through the nervous system, and then as well as the structural level.
Wow,
Yes,
that's wonderful. And
yeah,
you work with angels too. Do you work with
I
angels in your
do.
practice? Yeah,
I do.
tell us about your angel connection, because we love angels
Well,
here.
yes, I love angels. I've always had a connection with angels since I was a young girl. Um, I studied angels I first got into really studying and learning about angels from Doreen Virtue when I was in
Mhm.
my early 20s. and she has just, a wealth of knowledge about angels. And I began to really invite the angels in to help me in my practice, to work with me. And when I did that, there was two archangels that really made their presence known to me, and those were Michael and Raphael.
Yeah.
And so I call upon them a lot when I'm working with my clients to come in. I call upon Michael to help protect the field, because he's the great protector. And then I call upon Raphael to bring me that healing guidance that I need. And then from time to time, different ones will pop in for a certain specific issue that a patient may be having, that just gives me some more knowledge. Like Gabriel can't come in if someone's having issues with communication, or, Uriel, if someone's having issues with their connection to the divine, or, so I use them quite a lot. And I use affirmations that correspond with the angels when I'm working with my clients too. So,
And you work with the sorry, I'm saying it so definitively. It feels as though you work with the fairy realm a lot as well too. The nature spirit realm, they're around you a lot, and especially like
yes.
with the with the alarm not going off. The fairies got in there and like said,
Oh,
"Okay,
of
we have to
course.
handle this.
I know, right?
we gotta get in our way."
Yeah. The elementals are very much around me. I feel like they're more my personal way of grounding myself a lot, especially when I'm coming away from my work. I find they help me just sort of get back into my playful side, and ground me. And my children have the elementals around them.
Oh.
And they're there so much with them, and I see it in them so much. I use the healing energy that I receive from them as well. So yeah.
Do you have young children?
I have
now?
a 13-year-old and an 8-year-old.
Oh, yes. Okay. So for sure, because they're young enough that the fairies just want to be a part of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
Yeah, especially my daughter right now. I can totally see him around her right now.
Oh, gosh. And 8 is just such a time where we're really dancing on the edge of still being very, very connected. And, it's almost like there's an extinguish burst, I think, around the 8, 9 or something like that.
Yeah.
We do
like
have to start paying more attention to the
to
construct of
reality.
yeah, exactly,
I
the
know.
material reality. So it's almost like a last hurrah to be like really engaged with the inner realms, as the fairy realm especially, or the
Right.
elementals.
It's so
Uh,
true. It's so
yeah.
true. I see that in her quite a bit. Like, she loves to dance, and she loves to draw, and she loves to be like so creative right now. And I'm just like, I hope that doesn't change
I
anytime soon,
I hope she keeps it when she heads into junior high. Oh, junior
That's where my
high.
son is. That's where my son is right now. Oh
Yeah.
man. Yeah,
It's the worst. It's the worst
it's
period, I
so
think,
weird.
right?
I know, it's so awkward. You could just see that what they're going through is so painful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, with all of that too, and maybe possibly because of, I feel like you work with highly sensitive people a lot too. I swear I'm not reading you, and I don't usually do this, but somehow, I don't know, we have
Of
a
course.
resonance or something.
Yes.
But you have because I feel I work with Archangel Ariel. I mean, I work with all the angels, of course, we all do. But Archangel Ariel is like the head of my soul, And so I
Nice.
feel her energy very much, and what you do too, which is begging the question. I wonder if you work with empathic and sensitive people a lot. Do they find you? They need you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of empaths come through my door, and they don't understand it usually when they're first seeing me. They don't understand what's going on, and I have to educate them on why they are so sensitive, and how this is a gift that they've been given, and they need to learn how to shield themselves and protect their energy and all of that. Yeah. Yeah.
And you're very like when I looked at your website, I love that you're very right out there. You're sending the signal out very specifically, because some people who have as much education as you in something that is considered I don't know, traditional or clinical, which is great. They may, and then they have the spirituality. They kind of hide the
They hide it.
spirituality.
Yeah.
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 And I
Yeah.
love that you've put it right out there and you've made the call. And I find that to be so
That took a
valuable.
while. It took a
Did it?
while to get to that
Yeah.
place, for sure, because I
Mm-hmm.
struggled, a lot with that. With, it's what you're trying to identify with,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was almost like my guides were just like, stop, this,
Yeah.
you are who you are, and just be who you are, and those who need you will find you. And, but yeah, that's something that I've always, when I feel that way, like when I feel like there's some sort of a struggle inside me as to how I'm supposed to present myself versus the way that I am. I've always heard that you need to be true to yourself and honor yourself, because otherwise you're cutting off that flow,
Mm-hmm.
and that flow of the divine to work through you and to reach those that really need you. So yeah, I
I
just
love
put
that.
it out there.
My like the phrase that you just used, the language of what you're supposed to. One time my guides,
Hmm.
when I was saying that in my mind, they're like, "Who's doing the supposing?" Like, whose
Yes.
supposition?
Right.
Why do we need their supposition? Whoever they
Exactly.
are, and they don't
Yeah.
even exist. It's something I
No,
made up.
it's all in
It's
our
like,
own minds. It's our
uh-huh.
egos that are trying to hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
totally.
absolutely. So when you did sort of put it, you know, put out the
Hmm.
spirituality and everything, was there any kind of noticeable change, whether in your business, your clients, or in your life and yourself?
Yeah, there definitely was. At first, it was, well, prior to like really stepping out, there was a lot of inner work going on.
Mhm.
Um, my life was starting to kind of turn upside down, and that my marriage was kind of, having issues. And on a personal level, I was really trying to figure out what was going on. But then when I stepped into it, it felt like it was second nature to me. It almost felt like something else was coming through me and working through me,
Mhm.
as long as I allowed that. And people will even tell me, my close friends and family will say, when you're in your office and you're working, you're so different than you are when you're just, hanging out and having fun, or, just with others. And I say it's because when I'm in that space, I go in with the intention of just allowing the divine to work through me. And
Mhm.
sometimes I don't even remember what happened. It's
Yeah.
like I get in there and I start my thing and it just flows, and it's just the answers come, and it's, and then you're just a channel. That's all you
Mhm.
are. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
surrender.
Channeling.
You have to
Mhm.
learn to surrender. And I think that was the biggest lesson I had to learn in order to incorporate the spiritual aspect into my practice, was surrendering.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And yes, of course, you're channeling the whole time. When in channeling, we that happens in an well healing of any kind. I mean, healing is channeling. I mean, as
Sure.
I mean, I suppose when we have, let's say, we have a skill set that's made of clinical tools and everything, we can just like pull that out of the box and try that. And we've all had um, traditional doctors who are like, well, let's try this. I don't know. They're
Yeah.
not really working from some kind of
Right.
body awareness with a healing frequency. But yeah,
I
so
think a lot of,
essentially, uh-huh.
I was going to say, I think a lot of doctors struggle with their egos, because
Mm,
there's an inclination when you're going through school to be praised for your work.
mm,
It's such a competitive field. You're validated for your intelligence.
yeah.
And there's this, of course, societal um, ideal that is placed on doctors that puts them on some sort of pedestal. So
Mm,
you have this thing that's like feeding your ego, and you want credit. You find yourself in the beginning wanting credit for the work you're doing.
mm,
And that is the danger zone, because you're not really working from a true intention at that point. You're just working to get
yeah.
credit to feed your ego. So I went through that in the beginning, and then I was like, wait a minute, why should I even care, as long as this person's getting better, or as long as this person's getting what they need? And so that was when the true shift happened. And I think that was
Mm,
probably when I really started bringing more spiritual work into my practice. So it's almost like having to
wow.
go through an ego death as a doctor to be able to surrender to that.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. And it's such the unfortunate conditioning process for doctors, because there
Hmm.
isn't going to be anyone to give you feedback except for what your patients. So to think that there's
Right.
some kind of other ego gratification achievement, along the training path of it, you're going to be in your practice with your
Hmm.
patients,
That's
and
exactly
that's the
right.
only thing that really matters. So
Yeah.
that must be a big hurdle. And I've had, by the way, I don't mean to cast too wide of a paintbrush. I've had plenty of doctors who are working compassionately, intuitively, uh, as
Right.
Western trained
Hmm.
doctors. So,
Hmm.
even if they weren't really in a holistic practice. So definitely, maybe they've had that kind of ego death that you're talking about, moved into that.
Yeah, probably. I wouldn't be
Hmm.
surprised. I
And
mean,
so with your chiropractic training, oh, sorry, I was going to ask you, chiropractic training
yeah,
is, it gives you that a similar kind of conditioning, like ego-based and achievement-based, as with
yeah,
other
very, very much
training,
so.
medical
Because I
trainings?
mean, you're in school, you're in, a competitive field. You have to you have to hit so many numbers each. Like when you hit the level, it's like when you get to like halfway through, you start practicing in the clinical setting, and
Mhm,
you have to have so many um, patients exams, so many patient adjustments, so many of this, and there's like a competition thing with your peers at that point.
mm,
Like, oh, how many are you up to? I'm up to this, and it's like, that is part of the whole conditioning. Is it, and they do that because they're trying to make you aware of the fact that you have to be self-motivated in your
mhm,
career,
mhm,
and you have to be, you have to have that drive and that hunger, which I get, but it also does definitely feed the ego because you're in
mm.
competition and you're trying to stand out and you want to be the best, So yeah,
That's unfortunate. Even with um, a clinical modality that is holistic and
right.
spiritual,
Hmm.
spiritually infused, if nothing else. That's amazing.
Exactly. Yeah, it is.
Mm.
It's
And
interesting.
is that maybe that's endemic to any time where we have, well, I guess if we have a clinical setting and then uh, the the collective of the students being aware of one another's progress, then
Right.
just to set up a model of competition of any kind, that's gonna
Yeah,
be
exactly. I don't know if it's still like that. It was like that when I was in school. Some schools are definitely different. We
Mhm.
actually in our school, when I was going to school, we had to go out and get our own patients to work on in student clinic. They didn't provide them for you. I think now they do provide them, but that was definitely stressful because
Yeah.
there would be people who'd be like, I'm falling behind because I don't have enough patients to work on, and yeah,
Mhm.
so it can be totally a mind game at some point.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And so I read about your connection with Jesus, and we have in common having had like Christian religion and
Yes.
then moving through the religion part of it to a sense. I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth. It seems that if you are able to embrace metaphysics and other types of
Sure. Hmm.
spiritual modalities, then,
Yeah.
most Christian religions, they don't include that and they're not
Right.
comfortable with it. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
and, but in my childhood too, I connected with Jesus very much. I'm like a couple of times when I was having a mediumistic experience,
Hmm.
and I would
Hmm.
just be like, "That's Jesus, right?" And I feel like Jesus would go stand in front of the because I was scared. That's Jesus here, right? Because I'm not supposed to be with any other kind of spirit.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And we will be right back. Hi, it's Tricia with an exciting announcement. The Intuitive Healing Arts Academy has an amazing roster of courses for 2023, starting with immersive weekend courses in intuitive psychic development. Level 1 is Sunday, January 22nd from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific Time, and then levels 2 and 3 are held together in a weekend immersion on February 25th and 26th. Intuitive Psychic Development Level 1 is an immersive workshop filled with interactive learning, meditation, practice, fellowship, and attunement to open or enhance your intuitive skills. All levels of development are welcome, whether you are a beginner or you are an advanced professional, and if you are interested in using this for personal or for professional applications. After these intuitive psychic development courses, we will be heading into animal communication and nature healing and multidimensional mediumship, and many more exciting weekend and full day workshops. All of these are for all levels of development for both personal and professional applications. As I said, there are early registrations for all of the courses, so you want to check them out as soon as they are announced. And so, do find the link in the description to register for the first full day course, Intuitive Psychic Development Level 1, on Sunday, January 22nd, 2023. It's going to be fun. It's going to be life changing. It's going to be heart expanding. And I'm so excited to expand with you. And now back to the show. Yeah, I would love to hear about your connection with Jesus.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in a Christian home. My mother was very Christian, very religious. My father was, he called himself a Christian, but he wasn't quite as into the doctrine and the rules. He was more spiritual, and he was very much connected to nature. My father was. But my mother took me to church. I went to church with her all the time. I was in, choirs and the youth groups and all of that. And I really had a good personal relationship with Jesus. I read the Bible, but yet I was open to the way other people believed. One thing that always struck me when I was younger, I remember thinking, because I had friends, who were Jewish. I had friends who were, from Islamic and Buddhist, and I had all the different kinds of friends. And I was like, how come it is that Christianity is so dead set on saying that that's the only way, that if you're not a Christian, then somehow you're going to miss out in the afterlife, right? And there's all these people in the world, my mind just kept going on, like, back to that point. Like, that doesn't make sense to me.
Just statistically, you know what I mean?
Right?
Like, is God that
Exactly.
bad at math?
And here's this God that's supposed to be so loving. And,
Yeah.
why would he want to, like, just leave all these people behind
Yeah.
that he created, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, right away I saw through the construct there. But yet I understood that the real message behind Jesus's teachings was, of course, love. And so that never left me. That was what I clung to when I clung to my
Mhm.
relationship with Jesus, was the message of love. And I started studying the world religions. I wanted to know how they, what was going on with the world religions. And I remember even having to do a full on report in, like, seventh grade or something. We had to choose one of the world religions to do a report on, and I chose Islam. Um, and so it's just always been something that I've been very aware of, the connectedness of all the world religions, and the message really is basically the same between them, right? It's just the doctrine and the dogma where everybody gets bogged down in those semantics. So anyway, so I opened up to Jesus and at a young age, and then as I started getting more into spirituality and the angels, and I had an experience with the Akashic records, I started wondering, what is that? Because I was so intrigued by psychics and intuition and all of that, because I felt like I would know things about people. I had very vivid dreams where I would have people that had passed on in our family come visit me and give me specific messages to tell others. And I would have dreams where things would come true. I would have prophetic dreams. So I knew that I had some sort of gifts inside me that I needed to tap into, right? So I started studying more about the Akashic Records, and I found this book by Linda Howell one day. It just kind of popped off the shelf when I was in the bookstore, and it was called The Pathway Prayer Process, and she
Mhm.
walks you through how to tap into the Akashic Records. And the first time I did that, talking about your experience with the activation of your light body, I felt like I had a similar experience after I said that prayer. It was like the whole room just became lit up, and I was like engulfed in beautiful, warm light. And it was like I was being initiated into some sort of
Mm.
light realm of knowledge, right? So I was like, okay, there's something to this. And so I just kept going from there. And then I began learning about angels from Doreen. And then I started having my own mediumship experiences with my patients. And then I started studied mediumship with Doreen's Virtue's son, Charles Virtue, and became skilled in how to use that for my practice and with my patients. But I think one of the things, going back to Jesus, that was the most beautiful experience that I've ever had with him was that he came to me right after I moved to California. I moved here 12 years ago now. And he came to me in a dream, and he told me in that dream, basically, he put his hand up to my hand, and he was transferring all of this energy from his body into my body going through my hand. And then he was speaking to me in a language that I couldn't understand. And I knew my soul was understanding it, but he was speaking so fast. And it was almost, I just felt like he was just downloading information into me somehow.
Mhm.
And then in the very end, he held my face in his hands and he said, everything you do, do it threefold. And then he said, your choice is light, choose light. And I woke up, and it just, from that day forward, that's when things started moving in the spiritual practice. That's when things
Wow.
started kicking in there. And I'll never forget that. So I know that I have this connection with Jesus, but I also have since found other ascended masters that have come into my life. Kuan Yin showed herself to me a few
Mm.
years ago, and I work with her with women's and, dealing with compassionate issues around women. I also work with the Ascended Master Saint Germain.
I was about to say it. I could feel it
Yeah, you could
because
feel it.
yeah, I could feel it. And he was just saying his name in my head. So yeah, I
Yeah, yeah.
laughed when you said Saint Germain.
He taught me, he's teaching me a lot about, working with the violet flame and with
Mhm.
sacred geometry
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. But and Yogananda's coming in with me right now.
Mm.
I'm actually getting certification currently in a hypnotherapy technique that was inspired by Yogananda.
Mm.
And so I'm very open to all of the ascended masters and their beautiful wisdom that they have to share with us. Yeah.
Feels so good. And my heart is like feeling all of their energy and they're just smiling down on your work right
Oh,
now. It just
thank
feels
you.
so amazing.
I love
Uh,
that.
so beautiful. Let's talk about hypnotherapy. We're both hypnotherapists. And hypnosis is everything, isn't it? I mean, it's
Oh, it is. It really is. Yeah, it is. It's like nothing like tapping into that subconscious mind, and really making those changes in those patterns that have been there for so long.
Mhm,
And sometimes not so long, but a lot of times people are not even aware of what's going on the
mhm,
subconscious level. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah,
It's
the subconscious mind, it directs everything and it will
hmm
allow or disallow, according to what has been established there, I would say. And also when you say that, going essentially into the subconscious is basically your subconscious is your psychic energy, your psychic field, and it connects you to the unified psychic energy or subconscious field. And
hmm
so it's essentially it's everything. I mean, also, if you think about fight flight, that is a kind of hypnosis as well. So I see hypnosis as kind of the portal to heaven or hell for our personal heaven or hell.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Um,
talk to us about how important hypnotherapy is or hypnosis and yeah.
yeah. I think the thing that I find the patients who I really feel like benefit so much from hypnotherapy in my practice are the ones who are they're struggling with chronic pain, but they're also struggling with accepting things for the way they are. And
Yeah.
they have a lot of anxiety and they have a lot of fear in
Mhm.
them. And when you start working with them through hypnotherapy, you can see where the underlying root cause of a lot of this anxiety and fear. And a lot of it just stems from them being so uncomfortable with being in the present.
Yeah.
They're stuck. They're stuck in their
Mhm.
past. They're worried about the future. And they have these programs, I like to call them, that are constantly running in the background in
Mhm.
their subconscious mind that are directing everything they think about, the actions that they're taking or not taking, and helping them get to this place to realize that they can really make big changes in their life when they just look at why it is that they believe the things they believe,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
And so I think that that's so important because we tend to forget the power that the mind has over us, you know?
Mhm.
We tend to forget that that's where a lot of people identify themselves is with their mind
Mhm.
as opposed to identifying themselves with their true nature that's their soul.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And there's so much disconnect from the body and the as Jung told us, the unconscious mind exists in the body from, below the neck. And it's almost like we have two characters. There's this
Mm.
part of us that we ignore
Mhm.
and actually it makes sense why we were conditioned for that to be that way because when we're kids we just
Mhm.
move with the body and the body wants to dance and color and do all these things, but at some
Right.
point parents have to tell us to put our shoes on and go sit in a cold classroom. It was always too cold for me in the classroom.
I'm always cold too, so I get that.
It's just I'm reliving. I have some of those repressed emotions coming up right now, uh, and to deny what the body wants to do, and so we
Mhm.
kind of get this deny, and then we get peers who are telling us, "Oh, if you act that way, if you do that thing, if you wear that thing, if you say that thing, then you're wrong. And so we have to deny all of that and create that disconnect, which we could also look at as the critical mind that's separating the subconscious and the conscious
Absolutely. Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
layer.
That layer of protection,
Hmm.
that thinks
Yeah.
it's I heard something yesterday. Someone was talking about how when we react from the place of the mind or the ego,
Hmm.
that we are doing so because it's a way that we have utilized as a survival tactic from our early childhood in
Yeah.
some way,
Hmm.
and that's just it. That's that protective critical mind is something that we form as a survival mechanism
Hmm.
to, help us to operate in the physical world at an early age.
And that's why
Yes.
we do hide emotions from ourselves. We hide trauma. We hide in this, and we
Right.
repress these feelings because holding on to them, but hiding them too, so that they're still in our energy. That's what is believed, or that program that we're running that is somehow keeping us alive. It's like
Yes.
also the subconscious mind or the unconscious mind just believes if you haven't died by whatever these patterns or habits or beliefs are, then that means that you need to keep them because
Because
there's
they're
empirical
serving you.
evidence. Yeah, because you're alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not very well examined.
That's what people say. Well, I've made it this far and I'm doing okay. Like when you
Are
like
you
suggest
though?
things, you're like, really? Are you? You seem to have a lot of suppressed anger, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
So your patients that come to you and I mean, I imagine. I mean, sometimes it's a therapeutic process. Of course,
Hmm.
it may take some time. You probably, possibly, intuitively have a sense of what the repressed emotion or
Hmm.
what's going on, but you have to. They have to be ready. It has to bubble up, sort of
Yeah.
in an organic way. Yes.
Yeah.
How does that work in your work? If you if you can expand on that.
Yeah, sure. So that's where the muscle testing really comes in as a
Mm,
valuable tool, because it's almost like their body is telling me. Like I can
mhm,
ask their body, and then their body will say yes or no, basically.
mhm,
And then it's like, okay, so if it's not that, then could it be this? And so it helps me sort of pinpoint down to what I think it is and what the body says it is. And then I ask for their confirmation. And I'll
mhm,
say, well, your body is telling me this. Does that resonate with you?
mhm,
And they'll either say, oh yeah, that sounds exactly like that, like what's going on, or they'll say, I don't think that's quite it. And I'll say, okay, well then that means that there's something else there that we need to look at. So we just have to keep going further. And that's the way that I approach it, as opposed to just, looking at them and saying, well, I think you've got this and this going on,
yeah.
uh-huh.
It's amazing because I just recorded an episode 2 days ago. I'm not sure which one will come out first, but in that conversation, we talked about muscle testing as well.
Hmm.
So, like, it was 2 days ago that I had
Wow,
a
that's
similar
wild.
conversation. I know, and I haven't
Yeah.
talked about muscle testing in a while. And that particular person said that essentially, like, you have to the patient or client needs to be involved, like the way you're talking about it.
Hmm.
You're involving them in it. And I shared a story with that person that I had muscle testing done in an acupuncture by an
Uh-huh.
acupuncturist to prescribe, so to speak. It's not really the right word. Supplements,
Right.
and I wasn't involved in the process. She was putting like certain amount of supplements in my hand, and then she
Mm-hmm.
was like testing the weakness or not, and mumbling to herself, but she never involved me in it. And actually, the
Mm-hmm.
supplements ended up making me a bit sick. They were a little too much for me,
Oh
so we had to take
no.
me.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it, right? Is that it has to create resonance in them. Is that?
I'm really big on talking
Mhm.
through what you're
Yeah.
doing.
Mhm.
Even when I'm adjusting people, especially the first time that I'm seeing, so I'm like, okay, so what I'm doing right now is I'm checking your legs to see if there's an imbalance. And then I'm going to go up to this level. And then, and with muscle testing. So I'm testing, then I'm telling, okay, so here's what showed up weak. Your heart chakra is showing imbalanced. So now I'm
Mhm.
going to look to see what's going on with that. So if you are giving them verbal information that their mind and nervous
Mhm.
system can process, then they are becoming involved.
Yeah.
What you're talking about, yeah, if you're just silently testing something and you're not involving them, then there's a disconnect there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 And what you're talking, and when you're saying like the talking, and I've always, like, when I teach energy healing too,
Mm-hmm.
to be talking about what it is that you're experiencing, seeing, doing, all of that, because I think that a part of that is probably bringing a harmony between the conscious, subconscious, and allowing
Mm-hmm.
that we need a whole mind, a holistic experience, whole
Right.
mind body experience to come online, because that's how we have to live. I mean, we're not saying like
Exactly.
the conscious mind is bad. No, we need the conscious mind, and we need to
Right.
flow between I mean, even just like with the right and left brain, we need to flow between the hemispheres. And
Mm-hmm.
the the capacity to flow between is what makes us more agile and
Right.
to
You
reduce
you
pain.
also have to create that rapport between the healer
Yes.
and the patient.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of why you need to have that interaction and that exchange. And
Hmm.
they used to teach us in chiropractic school that you had to, your innate, they called it your innate, needed to connect with their innate.
Ooh, yeah.
And yeah. And then in hypnotherapy, they would teach
Hmm.
us what's the first thing. One of the first things you start doing is mirroring,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Mirroring your patient to get in that rapport,
Hmm.
because then you're locking in this beautiful energetic field that you can easily operate within. It's like a dance at that point.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
You are, and you have, do you have a course, I believe I saw, of intuitive
Yes.
development? Can
Yeah.
you tell
This
us all
is
about that?
this is something that I developed earlier this year. I found myself having a lot of, especially younger clients, like in their 20s and 30s, who know they have these intuitive abilities, but they're not quite sure how to engage them or how to open up to that and tap into that. So I developed a course called How to Open Your Third Eye.
Hmm.
And in the course, I talk in the beginning, I educate about the third eye chakra and what that is and what that's associated with, and how the third eye is actually associated with the anatomical pineal gland in the
Hmm.
body. Then I go in and I talk about the pineal gland itself and how it can become toxified or calcified with certain things, fluoride, of course, being
Hmm.
the biggest thing. And I discussed some certain foods that can help enhance the ability of that. But the third eye is, most people think of it as the center of seeing, spiritual sight, but it's also just your intuitive center,
Hmm.
right? So it's not just about, some people may think that this is just a course about how to develop your clairvoyance, but it's not just that. It's actually how to develop your intuitive centers and how you utilize your information coming in from spirit and what way you integrate that, right? And then I have different meditations in the course. One that has to do with a candle, one that has to do with using crystals to actually clear and open the channel there. I have a chakra opening meditation that I personally made, that one. And then I also found, and I discovered this a few years ago when I was, oh, excuse me, when I was working with one of my clients, that you can actually stimulate the pineal gland with laser light,
Mm.
and when, like, low level laser. So you can, I have a whole protocol in the course that you go and you buy your own little laser pointers.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, you can
You
get
could
them
just
on
do it
it.
yourself.
Yeah, you can get them on Amazon, and they're different colors.
Uh-huh.
And they have like you do it for so many seconds on, with each one and this and that, and you stimulate that. And by putting that light in there, you're opening up the frequencies of healing into the third eye. And so that's, a lot of it is giving you some practical things you can do. And then it
Mhm.
talks about ways that you can become aware that your third eye is opening. And I go into the clairs, like the different clairs, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clair sentience, claircognizance, and how all of those are different ways of interpreting information from spirit.
Mhm.
So it's a really cool course. I
So
think
is it on demand? Is it a time? Is it happening all in one time? What is
it's
the format of it?
it's on the platform Thinkific. So
Mhm.
you just purchase it, and then you have access to it.
Oh, so
So
it's self-paced and on demand.
yes,
Oh,
self-paced on
wonderful.
demand. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
wonderful.
Yeah.
That's so great. I was just so I'm in a mind body psychology degree program right now,
Hmm.
and in a Q&A with one of the professors, I was asking, because she was talking about, we were talking about the brain and different parts of the brain and the left. I think we were talking about the left, right, and everything. And I remember I asked her, I said, the pineal gland, does it belong to the left or the right? And she's like, oh, I don't think it belongs to either. I mean, it's part of the hormonal system, and it's sort of its own thing. Can you speak to some of that about the pineal gland? And
the pineal gland it sits in this more centralized in the brain.
Yeah.
And
That's
it
why I was
responds.
wondering, because I know its position. So I was
Right.
like, yeah.
Yeah. It's not really part of what you consider to be left brain, right brain. That's more the gray matter. It's sort of like just a little pea-sized gland that sits below that gray matter. So yeah, it's very sensitive to light.
And it has rods and cones. It's an eye. Really, it is like an eye.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, exactly.
So it's a gland, and it's a part of the hormonal system, and the pituitary gland and the hypothalamus also have a lot to do with kind of I think it has a lot to do with that circuitry, or the way that we're receiving the information from spirit.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating to me that it seems like hormones actually have a lot to do with, or at least are interacting when, or not interacting, activating in some way when we're having our spiritual communication.
Yes.
Am I just talking? I don't know.
No, I understand what you're saying.
Just
Well,
starting
there's the whole divine feminine, divine masculine, right?
Yeah,
Is
right.
operating through that. And our hormones are a reflection of that. And it's not that we have within each of us, we have different aspects of the masculine and the feminine.
Yeah.
And so the hormone system is basically a spectrum. It's like you can have so much masculine and so much feminine, and it's really about learning how to balance that. And so the hormones are often physical indicators of either how in touch you are with that or not. How if you're struggling with integrating your divine feminine and your divine masculine, then it's gonna show up through your hormonal system. You might have hormonal imbalances going on, right? And develop issues, and diseases and pathology around that. So yeah, I agree with you there that there's a lot of information to be gleaned from the spiritual connection through the hormones, for sure. Yeah.
Fascinating. I just started contemplating that. So thank you for, thank you for indulging me, for entertaining me on that. And I would love for you to, do you have any tips or guidance, or, how can anyone who's here, maybe they are in this space of awakening, or even like feeling like it's time for an awakening. Sometimes like we've already had an awakening or some awakenings, but we're like, I feel like I'm at the low point of the bell curve, and it's time to surge up, or I want to trigger something that will create a new burst of light in my life again, in my spiritual life. Any thoughts around that, or practices, or ways that they can interact with the spirit in a new way?
Well, first of all, an awakening is definitely not something you choose. It's something that happens.
It's happening.
And it happens usually when you're going through some traumatic or suffering or changes, transitions, things of that nature that are throwing you off. And one of the things that I think there's different events that can cause us to go into that kind of an awakening process. But I think one of the tools that is really important to develop in order to reach those different levels of awakening is meditation. And my patients will say to me, I just can't meditate. I can't get into that. It's just not I don't know how to do that. And I say to them, do you know how to just sit still for like 10 minutes? I said, all you have to do is set a timer on your phone. We all have these beautiful timers on our phones now. Set a timer on your phone for 10 minutes and just sit there. Close your eyes and just sit there. I said, sometimes it helps if you turn on like a fan or something in the background, some sort of a motor or something like that, and that you can keep going back to that sound to kind of bring you back to the present. I said, but you're going to get better at it after time. But if you just sit still and be and allow your soul to come through the mind layer, because that mind layer is where all those thoughts are happening, and all that duality is existing. And I really feel like the awakening process that I'm currently going through is all about becoming one in alignment with my soul and learning how to break through that mind chatter, and being being present. I've really loved listening lately to The Power of Now.
Yeah. Yeah.
By Eckhart Tolle on
Mhm.
Audible. It's like I've read it years ago, but I started
Mhm.
listening to it again because of situations I'm going through in my private life. But I was like, wow, this is really cool because it really does help you become more focused and more present. And then there's another good YouTube movie series called Samadhi, Samadhi.
Mhm.
Samadhi is a term that um, in Hinduism, it means like ultimate bliss.
Mhm.
It's almost like when you reach that state of meditation that you feel like you're in oneness and
Yeah.
bliss. Yeah. But those are good documentaries to watch to help people who are, needing some sort of guidance as to where to turn to when they feel like they're on that beginning to get on that spiritual path, that spiritual awakening is happening to them. And the other suggestion I say is just go where you feel drawn.
Mm.
What lights you up? You know, what is it that you're interested in? What makes you, happy just to do? Because that will send you on the path to where you need to be. You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's beautiful. And yes, when people say, well, I'm not good at it, I don't know how to do it, it doesn't work for me. And it's like, yeah, that's the case for everyone. That's how
right,
it's like if you've never run a mile, then going out and starting to run, you feel rusty and heavy and
hmm,
sore and you're awkward. That's the habit of the muscles and
right,
the energy, meaning like the mind and the emotions and the constant chatter. It's kind of functions like a muscle. So, but this
that's
the
right.
beginning of it. It always counts, even if you sit down for those 10 minutes and you're like, well, I just sat there and listened to my mind go crazy. It's like, but it was still, it was still that first jog down the block. You know what I
Exactly,
mean? It
right.
counts. It did build some new kind of habit,
Yeah.
even if it's not detectable quite
And
yet.
sometimes I still find like when I sit down to meditate, what happens is all these emotions come up,
Yeah. Oh, I
you
know,
know?
and some people I had a friend who was like, "Well, I started meditating, but 2 weeks in, I couldn't tolerate it anymore because I just felt so angry." And
Oh,
it's
anger was coming up. So then that
yeah.
tells you right there what you're suppressing,
I know,
you
I'm like, "But
know?
the anger's already in you, and it's not like you were becoming angry. That anger was surfacing, and it's in you, and it's hurting you, it's doing
Mm,
damage."
yeah.
So when you're feeling it during that quiet time, it's actually releasing. It's like smelling the trash as you take it out. You don't
Yeah, yes.
keep the lid on the trash because it stinks. It's like, no, it's
Right.
trash. It needs to go.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's a very good analogy. Yeah, it's so true.
The trash
It
analogy.
Yeah, the trash analogy. It's like what's coming up is what you need to look at and what you need to allow
Mhm,
to release. Yeah,
mhm.
yeah. So it's good.
This has been so amazing, and I would love to interact with you even more. You have your course. What are some other ways? What are ways that people can interact with you,
Mhm.
work with you? What are some of the things you have going on?
Sure. So I do have my website, which is yourchoiceislight, all spelled out.com. And on there, you can see on my services page that I do readings over the phone. I do hypnotherapy virtually. I can also do energetic clearing work virtually, where we go into the chakras and find those emotional patterns that are coming up to be released. Then you can come work one on one with me if you are in the Los Angeles area. My office is in the Pacific Palisades, it's right at PCH and Sunset.
Mm.
And then I have the online course that you can take at your own pace, how to open up your third eye. The link for that is also on the website. If you want to follow me on social media, I use Instagram for that. And my handle there is Spirit Doc, DOC. So Spirit DOC 444. And yeah, that's where you can connect with me. So,
Awesome. Yeah.
and
Thank you
also be
so much.
sure to sign up on my newsletter because
Mhm,
that way you'll get more information. You can do that on the website or on Instagram on the link in
mhm.
my bio because I send out, what I'm working on a course right now about angel numbers.
Oh,
And
good.
yeah, so I'll be, giving out more information through the newsletter when courses develop and when there's more things going on.
Wonderful. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for giving us all this inspiration, all this, just this burst of energy and love. I really appreciate you and all the work that you're doing on our beautiful world, everyone. This is Dr. Andrea Shakarian, and thank you for being on the program.
Thank you for having me. I've been so blessed to be here with you today, Tricia.
I had such a lovely experience connecting with Dr. Andrea, and I hope and sense, not only hope, but I sense that many of you are touched by what she shared. And so I just want to highlight that. I just want to add appreciation and resonance to that, that there is so much that you are here to experience, and so much you are here to probably manifest is a good word to say it. Not probably, I wanted to pick the right word. Allowed to be manifest through you. I was with a client the other day, and it was in the trance journey, or the hypnotherapy, the hypno-healing portion of this client's session. And when I'm doing this portion of a session, I'm channeling it. The hypnotherapy and the hypno-healing, I call it, it's all completely channeled. And as I was channeling while this person was in their trance state, the words that were coming through to go into the form of this person, which is why information would be correct to say, was, you are the thoughts of God being made manifest. You are the life, the hopes, and the dreams of God, of Creator, of the universe being made manifest. And that it's a foregone conclusion that these thoughts, which feel to you like soul urges, feel to you like desires and hopes and dreams, these are the awareness of what God or the universe would like to experience. And so I hope that you take some of the activation in and to lean into it. And I mean the activation that came through this conversation with Dr. Andrea, because she's a beautiful channel of light. And so I want you to feel that that is for you, that resonance and that journey that you sense deep within you. It's for you. And not only is it safe, it is desired. The universe is thirsty for you and your path. Well, that's what I have for you. Be sure to check the show notes to be able to find Dr. Andrea's offerings and anything else that I have there that's going on. And you, of course, can find the YouTube channel to see the times that I'm going live on there. Oh, by the way, I should let you know as well, I'm having the best time right now going live on Insight Timer. And so you can find my profile there on Insight Timer. I find it to be a really valuable resource, the whole platform. And you can find me there. I'll be posting. I have a lot of meditations up there already, and I'll be posting them regularly. And do please, I really want to make this special invitation for you to join my newsletter, because that is the best way for us to stay in touch. If you scroll down into the show notes here, there is a link for you to join. That's how you're going to find out about workshops that I'm giving, live group meditations that I'm giving. You can drop into. You can find it all there. I'm on social media. I'm on Instagram as well. But, you know, the algorithm is tricky. You'll always get the email. And I also share valuable content, stuff from my heart. I channel the things that are being thought into existence from God through me, and that is being desired into existence when I actually post, or not post, but when I send out a newsletter. So that's my invitation to you, to just let you know that I really would like to connect with you. And I am so grateful that you're connecting here. That's what I have for you in this podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I love you, whoever you are.